7 o'clock, a very good evening to you. Welcome to the second hour of The Full View on SABC News. Thank you if you're also joining us on SABC+. So SABC News has uncovered further evidence suggesting a syndicate may be behind Olorato Mongale's murder. New leads have identified a possible suspect, and our investigation has also expanded to reveal more potential victims. One of them has now come forward sharing her harrowing experience with an alleged member of this syndicate with whom she had an intimate relationship. SABC News Senior reporter Jayed Paulse has been working this story and brings us the second part in this SABC exclusive kidnapping expose. Jayed with me now in studio, Jayed, and all of this, for context, comes on the back of an interview that you did, in fact, in Amanzimdoti on Friday, when a man identified as the main suspect in the Mongale murder investigation was shot dead, apparently after an exchange of fire with KZN police. Then you started hearing people saying they recognized a voice from some of the interviews that you were doing, and that he too, the person you interviewed, may have been involved in some sort of crime. But today we're hearing from a former lover.
And typically, I think that whilst we are uncovering and digging into the story, we are going to find more victims speaking out. In this particular case, we did speak to a woman. We're going to give her the name Mary. For those that are watching back at home, we are hiding her identity, we are distorting her voice, because ultimately, typically, we also need to protect all the victims and those that want to come forward to share their stories. So Mary, not her real name, came forward with more information, Tembikile, detailing how she met a man on Instagram who she started dating. And Mary believes this man is in fact part of the syndicate targeting young women. In a sit down with her, she details how she met this man and what transpired in her relationship. Take us back to when you first met your boyfriend.
Okay, the first time I met him, it was on Instagram. We spoke on Instagram and we exchanged numbers, and then he said we're gonna share our conversation on WhatsApp. He said I must come to Durban. Well, I booked the flight. I went to Durban. He picked me. He fetched me at airport. By the time he picked me at airport, the guy he came with is one of the guys in the syndicate.
Do you know the name of the guy?
Yes, I know the name of the guy. I don't know if should I. Yes. The name of the guy is. That is his real name, but he's using the fake name. We went to his flat. Along the way, when we were going to his flat, we met this guy who recently died, which is Makanya. We met this guy. They pretended like this guy is renting the car and then he needs his refund. And then the guy asked me, babe, since I'm having this problem with my account, don't you have 500 rand? Would you please just transfer to this guy? I'm going to transfer you back, including your flight money. And then I said, okay. I transferred that money. We went to the flat. Upon our arrival at the flat, there was plenty of his friends there.
You get to the flat. Where is the flat?
The flat is somewhere around Amanzimdoti. It's Abawatwet. I forgot the name, but it's inside Amanzimdoti. Yes, and I even remember the room number. I remember everything like it was yesterday.
So this apartment in Amanzimdoti, Jayed, is that the same spot where you were on Friday covering the police operation?
This is in fact the same location and the same area and the same apartment where we were at on that particular day. She goes into detail how she went to go visit her former boyfriend, how she met certain individuals who she will later unpack in this interview, Tembikile, who she says are involved in the syndicate. So she says that when she was there, she started seeing different things like cell phones.
Right.
And this was triggering for her because for someone that was visiting her boyfriend, he didn't really have a lot of time of day for her. He would leave her in the apartment alone during the day, come home early hours of the morning. But when he would come home with a box with a whole lot of cell phones in them. And this raised suspicion.
And it's interesting because when we talk about SIM cards, etc., at the scene on Friday after the killing of Pilang Ngosi, police said that they had found, correct, in their investigation, dozens of SIM cards that they believe were part of the work of the syndicate.
That is true. So she goes on to detail how her former boyfriend then came from Johannesburg, and they had a discussion that who was going to come and visit. And then it was decided that she would go and visit the man in KwaZulu-Natal. So she visited him in KwaZulu-Natal, and then thereafter she decided that no, he should come and visit her, just to keep the relationship going. She told her friends about him, and this was when the man decided to come and, I suppose, visit her. And that happened. And she takes us through that exchange. Let's listen to that clip.
When I arrived in the flat, he left me alone. When he left the flat, he said he's going to work. I didn't even ask him what kind of a work, because he said he has a company that rents the cars. It was towards month end, and he said he's busy because it's month end, but he needs to collect cash and what's not. He needs to pay his bills. He apologized to me for leaving me alone in the flat. Fine, he only come back in the house. I don't know what he was doing. He was having many iPhones. He would take the badge of some iPhones, go with them, and he's gonna be like, I'm coming back. And I was just so content ukubona my iPhone. I saw the iPhones. There was a box with many iPhones. I saw the phones. Some they were brand new, some they were second hands. That's what I noticed.
It's interesting that this woman, the former girlfriend, met this man online, right? Because yesterday the alleged victim had also said their relationship started online, and then ultimately she was robbed, her bank accounts cleaned out, and threatened with death. So this former girlfriend then, was she a victim, or was that relationship purely romantic?
It was purely romantic. I think it started out where he was courting her, obviously met on Instagram, took it off on WhatsApp. And again, I say to you, once we get into the meat of this interview, we'll later understand why their relationship lasted so long. It lasted for 5 months. Quite a lengthy time for her to also notice things, Tembikile.
What did she see, Jayed? Actually, how much did she observe in terms of the alleged criminality?
We're going to go into it. But we're talking about cell phones, we're talking about different vehicles, we're talking about some of the suspects who she met, including Pilangenkosi Makanya, the deceased. So Mary says the former boyfriend then came to visit her in Johannesburg, and he told her that he needed to buy a car. She accompanied him to a dealership where she leased a red Beijing for him. He claimed his bank account was frozen. Let's take a listen to that clip.
He said he's planning to come to Johannesburg. When he came into the city, he said he wants to buy a car. He bought a car, a red Beijing from Midrand. Yes, when he bought this car from Midrand, I was there with him.
So what else came out from this conversation from this point onwards?
So the boyfriend visits her in Johannesburg. Things are going very well, but then he introduces her to 2 women. Now remember, yesterday in our expose, the first victim came ahead and said that when she was kidnapped, there was a woman in the car. Mary says she went on to meet 2 women that the said boyfriend alleged was his sisters. He introduced her to the woman and goes on to gain trust from her. So she became acquainted with the group. Let's take a listen to that clip.
He introduced the sisters, so-called sisters. He claimed that those girls were his sisters. So when he introduced these girls to me, it was like, oh, this guy loves me. He probably introduced me to his family, and I felt that.
So a lot happened in this 5 months that they spent together, according to this woman's account. But I want to go back to when she says she met a bunch of this man's friends, possibly potential suspects in a broader syndicate here. When she says she met Pilangenkosi, who was killed, in connection or in the police investigation into the Mongale murder case. Does she detail what he was like, the nature of their interaction, and how many times perhaps he must have been at this flat in Amanzimdoti?
So she met him once, and then she also met him when they were traveling in a vehicle. But when I asked her what kind of character and what kind of person was Bilangingosi Makanya, and she said to me that he was always very nice to me. He was a gentleman. In fact, she went on to say that often at times when the said boyfriend would be rude with her, he would speak up for her, which was quite strange and ironic to hear her speak of him this way. And that was the exchange. Very brief, but yeah, a gentleman.
And when she says he stood up for her when this man that you happened to come upon last Friday following the shooting, in terms of rudeness, what did that entail? Was it just verbal? Did other things happen?
She said to me that when I asked her, what kind of a man was your boyfriend? She says that although he did not get physical with her, he did threaten her. When asked, was she afraid of him? She said she was. So this was the character that she was dealing with. After meeting the girls, Tembikile, she tells me that she started noticing red flags, especially when an incident happened when they were traveling in the same car. She says, a disturbing phone call was made to this man, requesting him to meet another friend at a police station, and he was arrested for committing a crime. The car was impounded. This was shocking to her. Let's take a listen.
We got a call, received a call, saying that his friend usenkingeni angazi ushayise imoto kanjani or something. It was more like ushayise imoto only to find ukuthi uthathe imoto ayo-commit crime urobhe amanye amantombazane eKempton Park.
You dating him, obviously you're starting to see all these things.
But at the same time, he's saying he's not involved in these things. The person that is involved, he kept on saying the person that is involved in this thing is Sabiso, his friend.
Why was he comfortable to tell you what was going on?
You know, I think the reason he was comfortable to tell me what was going on is because he wanted to prove a point that he is innocent. He don't do this. It's only his friends that are doing. He was trying to gain my trust. I think so.
When was the turning point for you?
After receiving the call that is in danger, we went somewhere. There is I'm not sure, but somewhere around Spruitsview, SABC police station. It's where paid the bribe to amaphoyisa asesebenza police station ukuthi release le moto. Well, after paying the bribe, they released the car. They took the car, go clean a lily gazi lisemotweni. Bayicleanela kuphi eflatini lika the so-called sister. Lusisi wakhe la asebenza naye to do this nonsense kumantombazane.
Who were these girls?
The first girl is the girl he was always with this girl. Always. Everywhere he goes, he's gonna be with this girl. Then this girl, at some point, ubekahamba naye ema-Europe amantombazane.
When did you realize that he was involved in crime and that they were targeting young women? When did you, as a girlfriend, figure out that something is not okay here?
My concern was, why are you covering for your friend whereas you have nothing to do with this? I took a time, I called him privately. I told him that I want to end this relationship. He was like, baby, I'm sorry. I've got nothing to do with this. As you could see, I was with you. I got a call while I was with you. But my question was, why are you covering for whereas you see the pool of blood in the car, which shows what
was the model and color of the car?
It was the very same car, the red Beijing. Yes. I still even remember the registration number of that vehicle. I even remember the dealership that he actually, because it was a rent-to-own vehicle.
So on the arrest and the seizure of this vehicle, this red vehicle by the police, we also then move on to bribery of a police officer at a police station.
So she says that she's traveling in the car with the said boyfriend and the woman, and he receives a phone call from another friend saying, listen, I'm in trouble, I'm at a police station, my car's been impounded. At this point, she doesn't know what's going on. They get to the police station only to find out the said friend had committed a crime, kidnapping and robbery. The car is impounded. She goes on to say she witnessed this boyfriend paying a bribe to try and get the car out of being impounded. When she got into the car, she found that the car had blood inside it. They then took it to one of the females who she suspects to be working with the syndicate to clean the car.
Do we know where the blood would have come from?
That's what we don't know, Tembikile. You must remember, this is her account and her version of events. And I suppose this is what police are going to do when they are doing their investigation and putting all the pieces together. But what is even more harrowing, as the conversation flows with Mary and as she becomes comfortable to share more insight into the relationship and to what she saw during that 5 months of dating this man, she says that she finally watches the news and sees the case of Olorato. And it's triggering for her.
This is last week now.
This is last week. And then she goes on to say something that I think shocked me even in the interview. Mary says she came forward and broke her silence to assist in the investigation of Olorato. She told me that she believes that Pilangenkosi Makanya did not kill Olorato. Let's take a listen to that clip.
Olorato gets killed. It's all over the news.
Yes.
Who is the first person that you see, that you recognize trending?
Into engenze ngapay attention so much kwi-lokhunjana ka-Olorato. It was when you interviewed that guy, or your owner of flat. Your voice you recognize lose. I know this voice. I know this voice, and I know how manipulative this guy is, because he manipulated amapolice asebenza police station phambi. So I knew ukuthi lesi story asikhuluma la amang. I already knew ukuba uyena umuntu, and I still believe ukuba he is the one who killed Olorato.
You don't believe it was Makanya?
I don't believe it was Makanya. I believe that the person who killed Olorato is and ngiyacabanga ukuthi isona isikhathi ukuthi igcine lento lokuthi kuphelele la manje kube ukuthi it's either bayazikhulumela bona iqiniso okanye lento kushuthi ngeke iziyekele ukwenzeka. Kodwa mina, for me, I sacrifice with my life to save other girls' lives.
We're sitting now, Jayed, with two other characters who've been introduced into the story. Where does that leave us in terms of piecing together what has happened more broadly with the syndicate, perhaps even with Olorato Mongale's killing itself?
And I think it goes to show that there is a lot more elements to the story, Tembikile. What we know right now is that Pilangenkosi Makanya was killed during a shootout with police. What we know right now is that Fezile Ngubane was released from custody. He was just a car washer and a victim of Makanya. And then what we know right now is that Bongani Mtumkulu is still on the run. However, there are two more names that she has come forward with. But we've been speaking to police. We have a mandate as the SABC to also ensure that everyone that we speak to, including our victims, are protected. And even before we flighted this interview tonight, we did due diligence. Tembikile, we can reveal that we've shown our footage to the South African Police Service, and they are working closely with us. Police have contacted both victims in the first expose and the second, and they will be going into witness protection. So should you back at home have any information, please call Brigadier Nama on 082 77 89035. And stay tuned for more developments on the SABC News channel. The third installment is coming.
And just quickly, Jayed, before we let you go for tonight, I want to go back to the red vehicle quickly. In speaking to the woman who said she was a victim yesterday and what you've been able to gather for tonight, Does the same vehicle come up in both stories or in the stories of the other victims?
The first victim we spoke to says that she was kidnapped in a red Beijing. We spoke to the witness now, the former girlfriend, who says that they purchased a red Beijing when he came to Johannesburg.
So possibly the same car.
Possibly the same car.
Jayed Paulse, thank you so much for your work on this story. An SABC News exclusive as we continue to track what appears to have been the work of a syndicate that possibly killed Olorato, a 30-year-old woman in Gauteng. About 2 weeks ago now, she had been taken from her apartment in Athol to go on a date. Barely an hour after she'd left there, her body, she was reported missing, and her body was ultimately found on the side of the road. Jayed will have much more on the investigation, so stay tuned to SABC News. We're back with much more after this.